everyone. Rusty Albertson, Director of Communications here at St. Mark the Evangelist Catholic Church. This is Father Tim Wyciskalla. We are here again, once again, episode, what do you think, 4 or 5? Somewhere
I think 3.
Yeah, and we are somewhere near the candles this time. So we haven't been with you for a while. A lot has happened since we had been here last time. We had our Fun Fest. Tell us a little bit about the Fun Fest, how things went.
Fun Fest went off very well for anyone who came. Of course, it was St. Mark Fun Fest, so we had one night of rain, as we do every year, but it didn't hurt us too bad. We did very well as far as the number of people here. There was no injuries or incidents, and everybody had fun, and that's what we're looking for. So it was a very good Fun Fest.
And the Fun Fest is a time for all of our parishioners to come together, not only to help volunteer, but to get together and socialize. And saw a lot of our communities were here and did a nice job with that.
Yes, between the rides and the tents and the food and the drinks and all of that and all the music, it's a great time. So especially for Reggie and Chrissy Geyer and for all of our festival chairs and then all of their volunteers, everybody that made it happen, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who came to enjoy it.
Since we talked also last time, there's a significant absence between the school and the church. What used to be. Tell us about what's going on.
That's right. At long last, we have lost our parish center building. Now, as I'm sure you might know, that was built back in 1948 as a convent for the sisters who used to teach in the school. And I think it served as a convent until the late 60s, early 70s. And then when the sisters moved out, it became the parish offices, or the parish center as we called it. It was a very great building. It served its purpose, but it was beginning to show its age, and it was starting to fall apart piece by piece. And so at long last, we sped up the process and brought in a firm to come and tear it down. So they tore that building down the final weeks of July. It is now just pretty much a hole. By the time this airs, it's probably going to be a filled-in hole because they had to dig it all, get everything out. There was a basement. They had to get all the stuff from the basement out. We found an old oil tank we didn't know was down there.
Awesome.
That they used to heat it with, and then now they'll fill that all in with sand and dirt to make it ready to build a building on top of it. So.
And also just because I know that some people ask you this, were we able to recycle, try to make some odds and ends of money off things, and we did. We were actually able to salvage the doors.
All of those beautiful hardwood 6-panel doors.
And we were able to salvage all the copper guttering and some of the copper trim.
That's right.
And then we were also, the bricks were a different story. Because I was out there and they're taking it apart. The bricks actually had 3 holes in each one, and when they put the mason over, they filled them in, so they weren't very salvageable.
They filled them in with concrete. We didn't realize that the interior, so when they pulled it, when they started to knock it down, instead of the bricks falling into a pile, they all crumbled. So we kept a nice little square of bricks as sort of like a memorial plaque of the building, mostly to remember the sisters who were there and all that, but we couldn't really salvage the individual bricks like we were hoping because of the condition. But we were able to keep a memento, and then pretty much anything that was valuable in that building, the doors, the copper, furniture and everything was out, and all the rest is scrapped away.
And so what comes next out there? What are people going to start to see besides the big fence that's around?
Yeah, the fence is there. That's going to block off the courtyard until construction's over. Next, as soon as the basement well is filled in, we'll see groundwork start for the building, for the new construction. So the firm that tore down the building is done. Our Bruns Gutzweiler construction firm will come in. Their equipment will come in and stage over on the football field, and then we'll see them groundwork, site work, foundation work is when they dig, they level, they put in the underground water storage, kind of the messy part, when you'll see a lot of earth moving and they have to even out that whole field, which is much more elevation change than I thought. So they'll get all that done first here in the next few weeks.
And then I was talking to Donna Kern, the chairman of the committee, and I'm still amazed at the number of people, new parishioners, ones that didn't give before, that are still contributing to the capital campaign. It's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, the campaign's really never over until we're done. And, you know, as we've talked about, the cost of everything right now, materials, labor, and with inflation, everything is so high that every bit helps, and every bit of new pledges that come in. We just got a returning parishioner family who'd been here before, moved away, and came back and heard about the campaign, made a pledge just a few days ago. So it's, for anyone who is just now joining us or hasn't had a chance yet, there's still plenty of work to be done, and every bit helps make it possible.
Awesome. Our church's largest ministry, the school, off to a good start.
That's right.
Yesterday,
Today,
you had the first day. Tell us a little bit about what you saw.
As of recording this is our second day. We just finished our first all-school mass. Yesterday was the first day. Now this is going to be a very interesting year. We have a new principal. As everyone knows, our old principal is no longer in that position, but in a new position. This is our construction year, so the construction fence was up. Things are a little more restricted. It's going to be, things are going to change a little bit throughout the year for drop off and pickup and all that. And we also, on top of all that, are as big as we've ever been as far as our numbers. So it's very exciting. But the first day was wonderful. It was a beautiful sunny day. All the kids came in. All the drop off and pickup procedures worked well. Today, our second day, our first all-school mass, we got to experience the other side. It was a torrential downpour when the kids were coming to church, which is, that reminds us of why we're building this new building for the school part of it, for the gym and the cafeteria and the pre-K and all that. They don't have to go outside as much. So to get over here for gym class and for lunch. So it poured on them on the way to Mass, but it's a great first start of the year. We're very excited to see Mrs. Coker and the school go.
It was awesome. I got to record the Mass this morning so I could hear, and the kids just, compared to last year's first Mass when we were just coming out of COVID and so forth, or we were still into COVID, I guess.
I think we were still in Mass.
Yeah. What a nice, and you even mentioned it, what a nice to hear all the students and the staff participate fully.
It was beautiful. It was packed, and that's a great thing to see all their faces. And it's quiet here during the summer, but quiet's one word, but I'd say a little boring as well. So it's nice to have all the activity and commotion back on campus.
Agreed. So I'm big on saints of the day. So today is a big saint for you. Tell us a little bit about it.
That's right. Today is the patron saint of parish priests. That is Saint Jean-Marie Baptiste Vianney. If my French was better, I would probably pronounce all that better. But as I say in the Midwest, Saint John Vianney. And he was a French priest in the early 1800s. He lived through the French Revolution, which, if you know your history, was not a good time for the Catholic Church. That was when they killed as many bishops and priests as they could if they didn't get out in time, and took the churches over. They turned Notre Dame in Paris into a pagan temple, all sorts of terrible things. But ours, France, which is in, I believe, the southern part, it's not near Paris, it's in a rural part of France. John Vianney became the pastor there just after the Revolution, when things were just beginning to settle down. If you know your history, again, this is like when Napoleon took over. And he did everything he could as a pastor to keep his people close to the church, to assure them that no matter what, he was not going to leave, that no persecution would keep the church away, and that on top of all of that, that a pastor's job is to be with his people and love his people and bring them to Christ. So, there are countless saints who are Benedictine priests, Franciscan priests, Jesuit priests, and Dominican. Those priests that we call in a religious order, they have lots and lots of patrons and lots of saints. There are not as many, I don't know why, but there are not as many among diocesan priests, which is what I am. So the patron saint of diocesan priests is a big day for us. It's a big day to think about vocations, to pray for vocations, pray for our two seminarians, Kuixing and Kaitu, and to thank God for the example of this great French priest.
A little bit, not a little bit, but a lot in the news the last few weeks. Big news with Roe versus Wade.
That's right. Yeah.
Give us a little bit of insight as a priest, it's a Catholic view, what Roe versus Wade means, and kind of moving forward, what do you see happening?
Ever since I was young in the church, during, as a part of the pro-life movement, when we were praying for, the pro-life cause, one of the big goals of that has always been the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision in the 70s, early 70s, that took the decision about abortion out of the state's hands and put it basically made it impossible for the states really to do anything. It brought it to the federal level at the court, really. Non-democratically, it was done by the Supreme Court. What this decision that we just had, which the name of that decision that we just had escapes me now, but the decision that we had, this Dobbs case, overturned Roe v. Wade. Didn't change any laws in the United States about abortion itself, but it brought it back so the states can decide how best to treat this issue at each individual level. So now the work of the pro-life movement is at the state level, which is where I believe it belongs. In a republic of states, that these kind of decisions are made at the local level, and we can continue now forward, no longer making the case that Roe should be overturned, as it was not a good law, as it was not a good precedent. Now that it's been overturned and it's in the state hands, we can continue to remind people the importance of the pro-life movement. And pro-life means, exactly as it says, the respect of human life at all stages, from conception to natural death. Anything we can do to help those mothers who are in crisis, those who are, especially crisis pregnancies, but also even after birth, families who are in need and crisis, that's pro-life as well. And then to continue to uphold the church's teaching that every human life has dignity, whether born or unborn, and that the unborn have a right to be born, that they have a right to live, which is a big part of our message. So it was wonderful news that Roe was overturned, but it was the beginning of much more work. Our culture has become so far from this teaching, I think, that every human life has dignity, no matter what. And the church has a constant job to uphold that and to uphold, the dignity of every human person, every human family, and to do everything we can to help those in need and to help those to make the decision to choose life and then give them the resources they need to make that possible. So it's
appreciate the explanation, because a lot of people just hear the banter around the news and don't really understand it, and that brings a little bit more into a clearer perspective on actually what it did and put it back in the hands of the state.
Right.
The last thing I think we want to talk about, since we talked last time, we have been renamed Deaconville.
That's right.
Because we have another deacon here. So tell us a little about what's going on with our deacons.
Yeah, so we now have 2 permanent deacons, and during the summer we had 3 deacons, 2 permanent, 1 transitional. So everyone knows Deacon Paul Fisher-Keller. He's been here since before I was here. But now we have Deacon Nick Martin, and Nick has been a parishioner for a while, and he's been in formation to be a deacon for about 5 years. And so now he was ordained at the end of June, and he is a permanent deacon, which means he will stay a deacon until he goes to his heavenly reward, and hopefully here at St. Mark until he retires from that. Deacon Nick, Deacon Paul are both here in the parish. They're both married. They both have children and grandchildren and families. The permanent deacons are called permanent because they're not on their way towards priesthood, like a transitional deacon. If you remember Brother Fraternus, who was on our last episode of this show, he was a transitional deacon, which means he's on his way to being a priest. I was a transitional deacon. Every priest was a transitional deacon at one point. So now we have 2 permanent deacons and 2 priests here at St. Mark, and
awesome.
It's a great thing because deacons can preach at Mass, they can proclaim the gospel, they can do weddings outside of Mass, they can do baptisms, and they can do funerals outside of Mass. So it's a big help.
So we have an associate pastor, Father John, 2 deacons, and you really don't have a whole lot to do you?
Oh, I have nothing to do. Now I can just relax and kick my feet up. No, there's always plenty to do here at St. Mark and downtown, and it's always great. So yeah, so if you haven't had a chance yet, when you see Deacon Nick, congratulate him, and we'll get to hear him preach. The deacons will preach once a month and on one weekend, which means Deacon Paul will have 2 masses, Deacon Nick will have 2 masses, and they'll just rotate back and forth.
Awesome. And it's just a blessing to have this additional support staff in a parish that's growing as much as we are, so we appreciate God's gift with that. Well, listen, we appreciate you taking the time to join us again, you that are watching at home. I think we had like almost 90,000 viewers last time.
90,000, I would figure.
Maybe,
yeah.
I think it was like that.
After our first million viewers, they start to monetize things.
Yeah, and I want to also thank our special guest, that fly that's been going around.
I know it.
I know, I've been trying to go like this. And
if anyone saw me doing this, that would be why.
So we will see you the next time we see you. We hope you have a great day. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.
God bless.